Hey y'all, today I want to share with you some little goodies I picked up the other day at Ulta and just do a get ready with me for a simple everyday casual makeup look, trying out some new and affordable products. So without any further ado, let's get right into the video. This is not something I picked up at Ulta, but it is something I've been wanting to try because Amanda Z on YouTube, I love her channel. Her videos have made me just like want to try all of the wet looking eyeshadows. But she raves about this product from Physicians Formula. This is the Essence of Healthy Toner and Setting Spray. It has 95% galactomyces ferment filtrate. I am going to start repping my skin with this. Now I've already done my skincare, I've got my sunscreen on. I want to use a powder foundation today, so I want to add a little shot of moisture to my skin. That felt like a very high-end mist. Since I'm using a powder foundation today, I want to add a little extra glow to my skin. I'm going to be using one of my favorite primers of 2022, NYX Plump Right Back with Electrolyte Primer, and just spread that in. Struggles I'm currently having. My hair is longer than it has been in a very, very long time. And I really like the direction it's going with the hairdresser that I've been getting my hair cut by. We are working to grow out my hair in a specific shape. And I need to order some of those, what do you call them? Like no crease hair clips. I think you can get them on Amazon. That's just something I have not done yet, but I would like to get my hands on those because my hair has been getting in my way, which is not happening in years. Before this shopping experience, I've only tried one product from Ulta Beauty, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But I wanted to try some more of theirs because that little round eyeshadow impressed me so much. This is the Ulta Beauty Youthful Glow Concealer, and I have shade Fair Cool, $10. Coming down to Virginia, I packed two concealers with me, Revolution or Makeup Revolution Eye Bright Illuminating Under Eye Concealer in the shade Porcelain, and this mini sample of the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer in the shade Vanilla. I love the NARS so much, but it's not something I want to use every single day because I only bought the small size and I don't want to run through it too quickly. The shade match Vanilla is a perfect match for my fair to light skin tone with more cool neutral undertones. And in Toronto, this Makeup Revolution concealer does really well for me, but down here in Virginia where the water is a little bit more hard, it felt a little bit more dry, that concealer has been leaving my under eyes looking a little heavy. So I'm just gonna start with a little bit, and I'm gonna blend that using my BK Beauty A506 concealer brush. That's pretty. Very light coverage, but it's, wow. It's a little bit more neutral than it is cool and undertone, but that's really lovely. Hold on, let me look at the mirror behind my camera. Oh my goodness. That does not look like I have any makeup on. Let me come in closer. So here's my eye with the concealer. Here's the eye without the concealer. Oh my goodness. Wow. That's impressive. That's very impressive. Okay, let's do the other side. Now, I normally don't do first impressions on my channel. As a viewer, it's not something I'm a huge fan of because I feel like you can't really give a proper review on a product when doing a first impression, because sometimes when you're reviewing something or trying something out for the first time, maybe you need to blend it or apply it or do something in a technique or a way that is different than what you normally do. When I see videos of people opening up a product for the first time and then giving their review, as a viewer, sometimes that leaves me feeling frustrated and like I want more. Like I want a more detailed review. So as a content creator, after watching YouTube for over 10 years, that is something I knew I wasn't a fan of and something I didn't want to do. I wanted to create very curated and detailed reviews. But, you know, maybe this initial reaction of a product might be helpful. I don't like to build up powder foundations to where they're super opaque. Opaque foundations in general aren't really something I enjoy. So I'm just using this concealer to dot around areas where I tend to want a little bit more coverage. I'm gonna stipple just a bit, even on areas outside of my under eyes where I don't have as many fine lines and I don't have as much texture. Let me try to blend with my finger just to see. Oh my goodness, it feels like skincare and it is so smooth. In a way, this reminds me of the way the Neutrogena Hydra Boost, the one for extra dry, very dry skin, the fragrance-free version. This reminds me of how that product feels. Okay, right here on my forehead, I'm gonna blend this out just with my finger. Oh my goodness. This is so creamy. And on my forehead right here in the glabellar area, I do have larger pores and some texture, but this is almost blurring it out. It's like the hydration from the product is in a way plumping things up and creating a smoother appearance. I'm gonna use my BK Beauty number 101 contoured foundation brush just to give everything a quick blend, because that's how I normally do. Now I'm gonna look in the mirror behind the camera again. It just needs to feather out the edges because it is not a true cool undertone. It does have some neutrality to it, so that means there is a little bit of yellow, which means it's going to counteract some of the redness in my skin, meaning I would need to feather this out or mix it with a different shade. But no. If I shear it out and kind of thin it out like you would a watercolor paint, I could easily wear this by itself. It just looks so naturally perfected. Oh my goodness, like, let's come in one more time. That's really pretty. Oh my goodness. Off to a great start with our $10 Ulta Beauty concealer. That is stunning. We are going to be using the e.l.f. Camo powder. The day I went shopping at Ulta, I posted a poll on my YouTube community tab with a few different foundations that I've been testing out, and the e.l.f. Camo powder foundation is one of the products on there. Another one that was on that list that I've been testing out, and I'm gonna still do a full review on this, is this Wet n Wild Bare Focus Tinted Hydrator in the shade, where's the shade? Porcelain. Tinted hydrator in the shade Porcelain. I bought this because I saw several YouTubers I really enjoy review this. They love it. Something about this looks really weird. It's not very lightweight. In like indoor lighting, so whether it's lighting here in my bathroom, it just looks very heavy and it looks very kind of cloggy and it shows off all of my pores. But something I really didn't like is when my husband and I were in Ulta getting these products, he was like, what foundation are you wearing? And I was like, I'm wearing the Wet n Wild one I'm testing out. And he's like, look at yourself in the mirror. Something about that overhead kind of off-white lighting at Ulta. Oh my goodness, I don't think my makeup has looked that horrible in a very long time. If I was thinking ahead, I would have taken a picture, but since starting to do YouTube and social media, pulling out my camera in public just makes me very anxious. I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't want to seem like one of those people who's like, hey, here's my life. I'm at Ulta, there's nothing super exciting about that, but this Wet n Wild Tinted Hydrator looked ghastly in that overhead lighting. I just looked very textured, and all of my fine lines that I didn't even know were there were like appearing, and I felt like I looked like the Crypt Keeper. But we're gonna keep testing out so I can do a full review. Back to the e.l.f. Camo Powder Foundation. I have shade Fair 125C. On the bottom, you do get a little powder puff. I don't like powder puffs for powder foundation. I feel like they just make things a little too heavy for my personal taste. I'm gonna be using my BK Beauty. This is the number 105 large buffing brush or buffing powder brush. If this is anything like the Camo CC cream, this is gonna pack a punch with coverage. I'm gonna tap most of it off my brush and I'm gonna stipple. Oh. When I am not applying products on camera, I'm very slap and dash. I'm normally just doing makeup to get out of the door or get ready for the day. But I don't normally take the time to look in a mirror like this and analyze how things are going. This is really lovely. Maybe it's a mix of the concealer, the primer, that Physicians Formula spray I used. This powder is so smoothing. Like, look at that. I don't have anything really up here yet other than what little bit was left, so you can still see redness, but compared to my forehead, hold on, let me make sure I'm in the frame. Okay, so comparing my forehead up here to my cheek where I applied it, that's really nice, and the shade looks like a good match. Okay, so stipple on the forehead. Yeah, you can see that just really knocked back any unwanted pigment. I'm gonna take a little bit over my eyelids just to kind of neutralize any redness, and on my chin. And then we go back through and buff. I always like to buff powder foundations in, because when you really buff and work a powder foundation into the skin, I feel like it starts to take on a slightly more creamy appearance. It's gonna start mixing with the natural oils or sebum of your skin, that hydrating primer, your skincare. It's all gonna start melting together to look more realistic. That is something with powder foundation I've talked about in most any video I've done with powder foundation. I love powder foundation. Once you get the hang of it, they can be a little bit quicker to apply than a liquid foundation, but you really need to look at how you prep your skin and how you apply it. You just really need to work it in the skin. My goodness, I'm looking a little powdery right here. Nothing crazy, like right here on the fronts of my cheeks. I can see the powder sticking a little bit up here. With powder foundation, that is not something I really kind of pinpoint in from the start, because as it warms up and melts into my skin, that should kind of balance itself. I'm gonna use my BK number 108. This is the tapered powder brush. I like it for highlight. Using my favorite Laura Geller baked highlighter in the shade French Kiss, which is a light pinky color. Apply that on the high points of my cheekbones for a little brightness. A little bit on the nose and on the chin. And, you know, let's do a little bit on the forehead. More is more. That's the feeling of today. Now, I'm going to use a blush I cannot get enough of. Bobbi Brown Powder Blush in the shade Sand Pink. And I'm going to use my BK Beauty number 103. This is the bronzer brush, but it's a very flexible, flimsy powder brush. That means you can get a really light wash with it. With it being winter, wearing a more cozy sweater, I don't really want to use any type of bronzer or contour. So I'm going to use my deeper of the two blushes I packed and just kind of graze this right on the outer perimeter of my cheeks to give me a little bit more of like a cold blushed effect, and a little bit up here on the forehead. And just for good measure, I'm gonna take a little bit right on the fronts of the cheeks, and then I just like to buff. I use another blush, but I want to get the rest of the look on before I do anything like that, just to make sure everything's kind of flowing in harmony. Next product I picked up from Ulta is one of their matte cream eyeshadows, and I picked up the shade Throwback, which if I'm not mistaken is described as like a lilac beige. Applicator's a little too bulky for my taste, so got a lot of product on that one. So I'm gonna apply this using my BK Beauty a 505, which is like the lid shimmer brush, but I'm gonna use that to pick up some of the shade. And oh goodness, that's dark. Okay, so I'm just gonna apply it a little bit like that. I'm not going to spend too much time trying to finesse the shape. I'm gonna go to my BK Beauty a 503, which is the blending brush, and I'm gonna start blending this out. I don't know how this is going to dry down, so to keep it malleable and blendable, let me go ahead and blend it now, and then I can go back and do the other side. That blends out really nicely. It's a lot darker than I thought it was gonna be. That's okay, we can make this work. I feel like that blended out really well, but you can see it's definitely more of like very lilac-y gray. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing on this side, so we'll start about halfway, little dots. And the amount of pressure on this brush, I'm holding it lower back so I have less pressure, but I'm barely tapping. It's almost like I'm tapping with a feather and pulling it slightly because I don't want too much product. And then instead of finessing the shape with that brush, I'm going to use this one to blend and feather out my shape. Whoa, I got way more product over here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take whatever's left on the brush I used to apply it, I'm gonna build this color up and then blend, because instead of trying to tone this one down right away, I feel like it will be easier if I just build this up, and then I can do the same level of correcting and finessing on both sides. This Ulta Beauty Matte Cream Eyeshadow was $8.50. The next product I picked up, if I'm not mistaken, it was either Amanda Z or Khaki from Khaki Reviews Beauty. Talk about these. This is the e.l.f. No Budge Shadow Stick, and I have the shade No Budge Shadow Stick. I'm assuming the shade is called Magnetic Pull. This was $5. Here's the Ulta Beauty in Throwback. Here is the e.l.f. in Magnetic Pull. I'm gonna use this shade under my lash line. And I want a little bit of lift, so I'm gonna extend there. I use the BK Beauty A503 just to blend and soften this. Now these are a little bit more taupey gray than I was expecting. I thought they were gonna pull a little bit more mauve. Sometimes these taupey gray colors, when left by themselves, they can start looking a little bruisey around the eyes, and we don't wanna look bruisey. Unless you do. If you do, then go for it. But that's not the mood I'm in today for my look. When I'm extending upwards, I like to get a little bit of the shadow out here blender because when I blend, I will be able to blend the two shades together for the third color, which will act as a nice kind of transitional shade to really kind of gradiate from the lighter shade to the darker shade up top. The Ulta Beauty Bouncy Cream Eyeshadow in the shade Italian Ice. This is something else that Amanda Z raves about all the time. These are $9. And if you've been around here for a bit, you know I already have one in the shade Macaron, and I feature this in a lot of videos. I have used it. I am gonna probably hit pan soon. I've got a big indent, but this is a really beautiful light pinky shade. Actually, you know what? Let's just go for it. So I'm gonna take the shade I already had, Macaron, load that up on my ring finger, and I'm gonna apply this to my eyelid. This has a little bit more of like a peachy pink tone. It is a little bit warmer. Now I'm gonna use Italian Ice. This looks like more of a slightly warm kind of copper with some gold flecks. Just as a comparison, here's Macaron and here is Italian Ice. So you can see a little bit more pinky lavender, a little bit more golden brown. On my finger, this is a lot warmer. Yeah, on my eyelids, this is pulling a little bit more golden, but to counteract that more purpley taupe that I applied to the socket. But this will do really lovely at counteracting that really dark purpley tone I applied, and with kind of yellow orange being the opposite on the color wheel to purple, this will help give it some neutrality. Same thing on this side. Use my finger, apply it all over. I'm completely overlapping this Macaron shade, which will give it a nice like little light and bright background. And then I'm gonna go back to my BK Beauty A503 and I'm gonna blend on the perimeter to help really work those two shades in together, which will help give us more of a nice neutral tone with these being complementary colors. To further soften things out and get rid of this harsher line we have at the top, I'm gonna take my BK Beauty A503 and a little bit of my e.l.f. Camo powder foundation, and I'm going to use this to soften out the perimeter. So I'm going to start right under the arch of my brow and start doing little windshield wiper motions, and then I'm going to start blending. Since this is our powder foundation, we can use this as almost like our transitional tone from the shade that we applied on the lid to our skin tone. Since this is our skin tone, it's going to look a little bit more harmonious with everything, and it's going to make your blending process a little bit easier. And on camera, this is feeling a little like Uncle Fester from the Addams Family. It's very dark, but we can brighten it up. So I'm just working to blend this into a shape that I like. Now I'm going to continue on with the BK Beauty A503, and I'm going to go back to my Bobbi Brown Sand Pink blush that I used. I am going to use this to create a gradient again from the powder foundation I used to the lid color. This has a little bit more of a pinky warmth, so this will almost add some blushy healthiness to this purpley shade. That's really helping just to pull everything together to keep it looking realistic and not so stark and bruised around the eyes. Now I want to pop the cheeks. The cheeks will also help to counteract the dark purpley tone. So for that, I'm using my Dior Backstage Rosy Glow, and I'm using the BK Beauty number 107. If I'm not mistaken, this is their flat blush brush. This is one of the more recent brushes to my collection, and I'm really loving this. I've been such a big fan of my IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe French Boutique blush brush for years. I had never really gone out of my way to find another blush brush because since starting YouTube especially, I've tried a few different blush brushes that were okay. They were nice. They just didn't wow me. But I've loved all of my other BK Beauty brushes so much that I wanted to try this one. And this Dior Backstage Rosy Glow blush is so good. I picked this up during the Sephora's holiday savings event last year. So this was, I picked up back at holiday 2021, and sadly it kind of sat in my drawer and didn't get used because I thought it was too bright. I had this put away with some of my colors that I saved for my seasonal color palettes in winter because they are cool toned, but they're a little bit brighter, they're a little bit higher contrast. But I found that using this blush as like an accent really helps just to add a beautiful vibrancy to the look, and it makes everything just feel healthy and fresh without ever feeling like too much. For good measure, I'm going to take my BK Beauty A503 and I am going to run this through the socket line, and I'm gonna completely overlap that Ulta Beauty cream shadow in Throwback. That's beautiful. That's really pretty. I'll run whatever's left over just under the eye. Oh, I really like that. Okay, this is pulling together. I was looking for lip colors and I could only find one. So I ran downstairs and grabbed my bag because this is where all of my lip colors are currently living. Here are all of the lip colors I had in my bag. Up here in my bathroom, I had a Nude to Me that's actually just arrived earlier today, which is why it wasn't in my bag. This is the Maybelline Superstay Vinyl Ink in shade 110 Awestruck. This is beautiful. This is my lips. Like, I can't even really call it my lips a better because it looks just like my lip color. I really love this, but not the color I'm gonna go for today because I want something a little bit brighter to counteract the darkness that we have on the eyes. The other shade I have from the Maybelline Superstay Vinyl Ink is the shade 20 or 20 in shade Koi. Really beautiful pinky shade. I might end up using this as a base. Actually, I'm gonna use this as a base. I love this color so much. I feel like as a base it will work really well to add harmony. So I'm gonna shake this up. That's a great base to start with. So Maybelline Superstay Vinyl Ink in shade 20 Koi. Nude Sticks Gel Color Lip Plus Cheek Balm, and this is in the shade Posh. Pretty, but it's a little bit more peachy than I want to go with. While we're here, I'll show you swatches of the two Maybelline. So first up, we have number 110 Awestruck, which is my lips, pretty much my lip color in a lipstick. And then we have shade Koi, which is the color I'm wearing on my lips right now. So there is Koi at the bottom. So Koi and Awestruck. Cut by Mario. This is the Moisture Glow Plumping Lip Serum. I have the shade Mauve Glow. This is something I picked up in the checkout aisle at Sephora on a whim. It's really pretty. Here is the shade Mauve Glow. It's really nice. It's very balmy. It's very cocooning and nourishing on the lips. I just don't know if I would pay this much for a tinted lip balm. Again, it's very nice, but I feel like there's other things at a better price point. If there's a color that speaks to you that you really enjoy and you're a huge fan of the brand, I would say try it. But for me, I'm not gonna repurchase another one. One of my all-time favorites from MAC. This is a satin lipstick from MAC in the shade Faux. There is Faux. Dior Addict Refillable Lipstick. This case is one I bought separate. The color inside is the shade Thai and Dior, if I'm not mistaken. This could be a good one. Oh, that's pretty. There's Thai and Dior. That could be a nice one. And then we have one that my husband picked up for me when he was in Vegas. Tom Ford Ultra Shine Lip Color in the shade 706 L'Eclisse. And I love this color. And here is the shade L'Eclisse. Actually, I'm gonna use this one. Take a little bit more of my Bobbi Brown Sand Pink blusher, add it to the back of the cheek. I've got a little bit of an edge right here for the shadow. I'm just gonna use the blush to buff over that and kind of watercolor that into the rest of the look. Essence Extreme Lasting Waterproof Eye Pencil. This is in the shade Silky Nude, and I'm just gonna apply a little bit of this on my waterline. I'm just gonna use my finger to go under and smudge that. That way it's not so stark between where my lower shadow starts and that liner start. Little fun backstory. I have been looking for a good nude eye pencil, and with more specifically the shade. I want something that's not too yellow, too beige. I want something that has a little bit of pink because my skin has quite a bit of pink in it. If I put anything too yellow in my waterline, it just feels very stark. The Sephora sale was going on. I was looking at things online and I was like, I didn't know which one. So I was waiting until I went in store, buy one, and then I found this at our local Shoppers Drug Mart back in Toronto. I picked it up. It was like $3, I think. This was so good. Any of the ones I had on my wish list, I deleted, and I've stuck with this. It's so good. I'm gonna use my Rom&nd All Fix Mascara in Long Ash. This mascara is just over the 3-month mark, so I need to toss it, but I am going home at the end of this week for a few days, and I've got some mascaras on backup, so we're gonna let this mascara go just over the 3-month mark, and then when I get home, I will place this in my empties and grab a backup. And one thing with this mascara, I find for some reason it almost feels like it gets a little bit thicker as it gets older, so sometimes when I'm applying, I'll get transfer under my eyes. I can just use a cotton bud and clean up under my eyes. And since I've got my bag here, I'm gonna grab a fragrance I have in my bag. This is from the brand Rosie Jane, or by Rosie Jane, and this is the scent Rosie, described as a nude skin scent. It's very very lightweight. You have to hug someone or be in very close proximity to smell this. It doesn't have a lot of projection, but it's described as like a nude skin scent. It does have a little bit of a floralness to it, but it's almost like freshly showered skin with a touch of floral. It is so good, and I am making my way through this. This is one I would definitely buy the full size of when this runs out because it's really lovely, and it's not an overpowering or offensive scent. It's very much like it's here for me to smell, but unless you hug me, you're probably not going to smell it. I hope you all enjoyed this video that's trying some new products for the first time on camera together. I enjoyed it. I had fun. The Ulta Beauty products that we tried really hit it out of the park, and just for fun, I'm going to take a little bit more of this Physicians Formula spray. A little bit more or a lot more, whichever you want to call it. I will put a pinned comment in the comment section down below after this video is up, letting you all know how everything wore. But so far, I've been really happy with it. The e.l.f. Camo Powder Foundation, it's nice, but we will wait for the official dedicated review video to find out how this compares to my kind of holy grail powder foundation, which is my Laura Geller Baked Balance and Bright. And so we will find out how these two compare in that video. Until the next video, I hope you all are taking good care of yourself wherever it is that you are in the world, and I will see you all later. If you enjoyed this, make sure you give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below letting me know if you've tried these products or if there's anything you want to try, and I will see you all later. Bye y'all.